I am 37, almost, I'll be 38 this year, mother of two. I am finishing a degree in exercise science. I compete in women's physique, coach bodybuilding, tan bodybuilders for shows, do a little bit of judging.
So, how did you get into this world of fitness?
I stopped doing any sports in like 10th grade. And then I found myself after my first daughter kind of like wanting to get in shape, and I had no idea how. And I actually took up running, and that became ultra running. And then I finished my goal, I decided was to finish a 100-mile race. And I finally finished one in 2013.
Wow.
And I felt like there was nowhere else to go with running from there. So I was kind of floundering for a while, and I saw a girl that I was friends with on Facebook start a prep and compete in bikini. And I went, I bet I could do that.
Is the competition side, like even just within yourself, do you feel like that's what a lot of times pushes you?
Yeah, for sure. I just have like a need to prove myself to myself. I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah, I just always have to be going after something.
Yeah. No, I think that does make sense, especially for people in the world of bodybuilding, because that's really what it's all about. You're pretty much in the gym, but it's you versus you kind of thing. So I think a lot of people can relate to that kind of proving yourself right or proving even sometimes proving yourself wrong is a lot of times a big motivation because you might think for a split second, I can't do this. And then that, kind of pushes you back into, no, wait, I can do this. I just have to, actually go and do it. An interesting aspect though, too, you said exercise science and I actually have my degree in exercise science. Is that something that you wanted to kind of go back and get to just expand your knowledge?
Yeah, I actually have a business administration degree. So my first life was entirely different. After I started getting really into ultra running, I had a couple people ask me to coach them. So I was coaching other runners, but I felt like I really didn't have the background to do it. So I started this degree in exercise science, and then it's taken me a long time, but I'm finally about to start my last semester. So
Wow, congratulations.
thanks.
That's pretty cool. I know, whenever I got in, I knew I wanted to. Actually, I started off wanting to do more nutrition stuff, but the school I chose didn't have that. So I was like, well, what's kind of the next best thing? And I ended up landing on exercise science. It was a little bit of a different class load that I encountered, though. Have you found that any of the classes were kind of a little bit different than what you expected?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of classes on like special populations, dealing with youth, seniors, people with different disabilities. So I didn't really expect all that. Like one of my classes, we got our, I forget what the acronym is for the thing, but it's a speed and explosion certification or something like that. And I was like, didn't even know that was a thing.
Kind of going back into the bodybuilding side, tell us a little bit about what that was like for you when you first started, because obviously bodybuilding has the certain stereotypes and certain, things people think about it. But what was your experience like, especially like I said, when you did first start?
So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Coming from a running background, all I knew was cardio, and all I knew was, carb loading and eating whatever I wanted. And so it was a huge shift. I didn't know how to lift correctly. I didn't know how to lift with proper intensity, form, knew nothing about mind muscle connection. And so it kind of threw me for a loop. I think I got really lucky because I joined a gym. I think it was an Anytime Fitness. And it just so happened that they were just a really nice crew that worked there. They were really supportive. And there wasn't any other bodybuilders. It was a lot of, senior citizens and weekend warriors. And so I just didn't have anybody that, you know, seemed unattainable or like made me nervous to work out around.
Right.
And that
And
helped.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee.
yeah, and did it when you first started, did you start lifting because of your goal of wanting to get on stage, or was the lifting happening and then you kind of had the goal?
So I did some lifting as a runner because, they tell you to stay injury free, to be faster, whatever, you got to lift. But I had no idea what I was doing. I had a gym membership and I'd go in sometimes and do a little bit. And I had a membership to a CrossFit gym and I would go in and, you know, do whatever WOD they wanted to do that day. But I was very weak and like I couldn't do a pull up. I remember the first time that I deadlifted 135 pounds that I was like celebrating. It was almost like starting fresh as soon as I decided to do bodybuilding.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I feel like at least it would be to, be pretty proficient at one thing and then in the same ish category, exercise, if you want to call it that category, start something completely new and just feel yourself being new in that. That's such kind of an exciting time because you do certainly see more, more fitness gains at the beginning. How did you respond whenever those first gains started to happen and then they started to kind of taper off a little bit?
Because I didn't really know like what I was doing, I didn't have like this huge explosion in gains. It was kind of slow and it took a while. So it was just over time. Like I just kept getting better. And it wasn't really until probably about 3 years in that I really started to see like a major slowdown. And that's when I started to really take things more seriously. And it was just a slow learning curve for a long time.
Do you think you benefited from kind of that slow learning curve?
I don't know if I would say benefited. I think most people could have been way ahead of where I am now in the time that I've been doing this because I set myself back so many times. But I learned a lot of patience and I learned a lot of humility. I placed last more times than I would like to admit. So I think that that was good for me. I forget what the name for it is, where you learn a little bit about a subject and then you think you're really good at it. So like I went through that phase where I thought that I knew it all, and then you learn even more and realize that you don't know anything, and that knocks you down a few pegs. So I've been through that whole bell curve of confidence versus knowledge.
Getting on stage, how did you handle that?
I surprised myself. I wasn't sure how I would handle it. I didn't really do anything like that in high school or whatever. Like I was in choir and band, but I never had solos and I never acted as like a main character in any of the drama club things. So I had no idea what was going to happen. And the moment that my heel hit that stage, like I was just all smiles and I was just so happy to be out there. And I realized that the lights were bright enough that I couldn't really see anybody. So I was just like, okay, like let's do this.
And leading up to it, did you have those fears? Did you have those anxieties that, most people probably would expect someone to have?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that ever really goes away. Like I know how much I love this stage, but the last weeks and days leading into a competition, it's still, did I do enough? Am I good enough? You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't ever change.
And do you think most about like the actual getting on stage and performing, the posing, or do you think more kind of like you said about what if I would have went one rep harder? What if I would have, done this meal just a little bit more precise? Like, is it more thinking about the actual act you're about to do, or is it thinking back on things that you've already done?
I think for me, it's always, could I have been better? Once I'm at the show, once I have a tan, once I'm in my suit, there's nothing more that I can do. So for me, I worry about, did I do the work that I needed to do beforehand?
And working with other people, how do you help other people with that, mentally? Because physically, obviously, when you're helping someone, it's the X's and O's of that. But like, there's got to be so many mental uh, obstacles.
For sure. And I think a lot of that is practice. Like you are going to have nerves on stage that first time. And if you've practiced your poses a million times and you've practiced holding them for a minute or two at a time, like even when you just blank out and you're a deer in headlights, your body will just do it. So that's really what I try to work on with my people is like work through, this is what comparisons are like, this is what individuals are like, this is what call outs are like, and make them pretend they're on stage over and over and over again. And then when they get there, their brain can turn off and their body will just keep going.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Yeah. And when you are, when you're working with somebody, can you kind of sometimes tell even before they can tell?
Oh, for sure. There's women that will wear heels every day that always have their hair and makeup done that, have a great sense of fashion and whatever. Like I've just noticed that personality type, like you put them in bikini or wellness and they just rock it. They bring all kinds of sass and personality to this stage. Whereas somebody that's, more like me, a little bit tomboyish, doesn't like to do hair makeup every day, maybe a little bit more sit in the corner, they might not do so well in those because they just don't have that like spark that shines through on stage.
And how do you develop that? Is it just kind of like you said, going through the motions of practice and feeling what it will be like when you get up there?
To a point, and then there's also a point of some people just don't belong in those categories. So for me, I did bikini one time and I realized I was like, this doesn't suit me. Like, not necessarily body wise, I didn't have a lot of muscle, but I was like, I'm not the 4-inch heels and sparkles and bikini overall look. Like that's just not me. So I took a year off and moved into figure. I was like, I can do quarter turns.
Finding that perfect fit, that seems like it's such an important aspect of bodybuilding.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I ask people to consider when people start with me is like, not what do you think you're built for, but which one is your favorite? Because we can always work for that.
Yeah, and it seems like kind of to that point, if it is something that is your favorite, you're willing to kind of work a little bit harder to get to where you need to be to fit that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, if you're not motivated, if it's not something that you love, you will fail in this sport very quickly.
It just seems like this sport has, very little forgiveness when it comes to mistakes or kind of losing that discipline.
Absolutely. That's what separates, regional from national, from pro, from Olympia level. At the regional level, people will miss workouts or they'll miss cardio or they'll go off plan. And then it's like dollars adding up. And then when you get to the Olympia level, they don't miss a penny. Everything is taken into account every day.
Obviously, fitness is becoming more scientific. From back in the day, it was a lot more about the person in the gym who kind of looked the best. That's what you did. That's what you followed. But now it's become so personalized. How do you really keep up with? How do you keep up with growing information and making things so personal nowadays?
I feel like the big thing is that you have to just not be afraid to start. So I have a general formula where I kind of go, this person's height is this, their weight is this, their goal weight or where we want to go is, this. And then I put that all into my formula and I come up with some calories and macros and go, this is our starting point. And then just adjust from there. You watch the scale, you watch sleep, digestion, mood, strength. I have them track everything. And I just use that feedback to make the adjustments. And of course, I'm always, learning. I see things posted and I'll go read about it. I'll go find the research. And I get to do that through school a lot. So that helps. Yeah, I think you just can't get overwhelmed with it. Like the science is there, but it's not perfect. You can find 10 studies that will say the opposite of whatever study you're basing what you're doing off of.
How long do you think, that process would really take someone to actually really start to dial in on what's best for their body?
I would say a minimum of 6 months, but usually it's closer to a year because things change. Somebody starts off and they want to lose weight, and then you get them to where they want to be weight wise. Maybe they're now healthy, they're no longer overweight or obese, but then they realize like they're still not happy because they don't have any muscle or they aren't very good at, a sport. They want to be able to go hiking, they want to, join a softball league, whatever it is. And so then it starts a whole different journey. And that can mean complete changes in their eating, their training, and what you're asking them to do.
What do you think you've actually learned about yourself along the path to helping others?
I have learned so much. I've had some clients that are just, they give the best feedback, and we'll jump on a Zoom call like this and we'll talk back and forth about things. We'll send each other research or whatever articles, and like I don't even feel like I'm coaching them, like, because it's all these mutual decisions are being made. And so it's changed like how I view coaching. Like it's really more of a partnership. It's made me realize like how much I need something in my life where I feel like I'm helping other people get those close personal interactions. And yeah, I don't know, my life is completely different now than it was prior.
What do you think is, if you had to just put one characteristic, one trait, what would be that one most important thing that you would say, if you want to be successful at bodybuilding, you have to have this?
I guess I would just call it drive. There's those people that they can't stop until they succeed. And it's those people that make it. Other people lose a few times and get disappointed and quit, or have a few setbacks, regain weight, get off their plan, miss a few workouts, go on a vacation, and they just can't get back on it. There's just that internal drive to succeed that some people have.
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting aspect to humanity that you do find the percentage of people that do have that. And then some people are just very, very content, in life, whether it's content being successful where they are and staying there, or it's content, never chasing or achieving really anything that they wanted, or even really wanting anything. It's crazy to me how some people just simply don't want much out of life. And it's so crazy because there's so much that this world does offer, but I don't want to say so few, but maybe you could say so few people really do kind of chase the potential of just what's out there.
Yeah, I found that there's just a mix of people, and there are people that are content, like they just are happy with what they have and where they're at. But there's also just a large group of people that are just afraid to go for it. And they don't even know that. They sabotage themselves. They they get off plan. They constantly have some excuse of why they can't do what they want. And I can sit there and give them every solution in the book and they won't take it because they're somehow just afraid to succeed.
I think a lot of it comes down to, almost rewiring your brain in so many ways. If you don't have it, I think a lot of people can have it. It just comes down to just something in life. Just shut it off. Maybe it was one experience, maybe it was a series of experiences.
Yeah, I think sports psychology is just as important to coaching as exercise science and everything else. And there's a podcast called the Huberman Lab, and they talk about neurochemistry and psychology and stuff all the time. And there's some pieces in there about how to change that wiring and help yourself.
You mentioned drive. What do you think it is, though, in this world that is driving you to coach, to continue to train, to go back to school and get, your exercise science degree? Like, what is it that's just pushing you to keep going?
There's a couple points behind that. I've thought about this quite a lot. And I would say, like, the first thing is that I was never popular. I was never an athlete. I was never, had a large friend group or anything like that. And so I always had this like need to prove myself and like be something. So that has driven me through ultra running and now through bodybuilding and school. Like, I just don't want to fail because I know that there are people out there that would clap for my failure, and I'm not going to give them that. And then on the other side, like, I grew up with a single mom and we didn't have a lot. And then I was a single mom and raising my daughters, and they, had a little more, but still not a lot. And I was working way too much. I was doing field work, pipeline, power plants, things like that. And I was miserable. And so when I finally quit my job and decided to do coaching and tanning and working bodybuilding shows full time, I said, I'm never not going to provide for my kids. And I'm going to make sure that this is going to be more than enough to carry us through the rest of our lives. So, like, it just has to succeed.
Every successful person, it seems like, has that, story, whether it's a lifetime story or it's just that, like, one event story that it's just like, okay, because of this, I'm just going to, I can't lose. I'm not going to lose, or at least I won't give up. I'm going to keep trying. And I think we're losing a lot of that in our society. Unfortunately, I think it's becoming so padded, for lack of a better word. Everything is kind of like lose proof. It's not teaching us any lessons anymore. It's just, making things so comfortable in the moment.
Yeah, we have a lot of luxuries in life. We can drive to the store in an air-conditioned car and pick up pre-made meals and stick them in the microwave. And, we go to work and we work at a laptop. Not many people are, working hard labor jobs. And yeah, I think life has become so easy that we create our own problems a lot of the time. We look for drama and we look for reasons to pick fights with people and just entertain ourselves with social media. But if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, if you can put yourself in hard situations and see them through, it gets easier and easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good, honestly, a really good place to end the podcast. Which, make yourself comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't think you could say it any better. I just think that's where growth lies. I think that's where fear meets opportunity, and then you just, see where it takes you from there. But no, it's really cool getting to talk to you, getting to meet you, and just kind of getting, like I said at the beginning, just kind of like a little peek into your experience and kind of learning from it, and honestly being a little bit inspired by it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Definitely. And if people want to follow what you're doing or maybe reach out for some help, where can they do that?
I'm on Instagram as Brazen Maiden, and my website is brazentraining.com.